And Seps,
Hello again, everyone. This is Triptych with another Winter Tournament Round 2 match. Similar to the last one, I had actually recorded this already with audio, and my audio was lost. So I am going back and recording over it. So this is a tournament game between Nesi and Zap, two players who have been around for quite a while now. We have Nesi, who is in the top left there as the Federation, and Zap, who is in the bottom right as the Klingons. The map is Duel 2. This is the first match they have fought against each other in the round 2 of the winter tournament. And as you can see, Nesi is going for an Antares yard and storage dock. Now, I also had a couple hecklers in this game who were on TeamSpeak, and you will be able to hear their commentary. What was happening around this time was that I was getting confused, saying, why is he building an Antares yard first? Because the build time for chassis level 1 at the engineering and an Antares yard is the
nope,
same
he's seeing
amount.
a warping rush.
Seeing the fastest way to do a warping rush.
So I was saying that
Yeah.
normally you can build the Starfleet engineering
Both at the
first
same time.
and then research chassis level 1 while you build your Antares yard. However, the Star Master and Drone, who were watching with me, very quickly pointed out that he is going for a warp-in rush, and he is going for an extreme warp-in rush, the fastest that is physically possible in this game. Almost. Well, kind of. He's Mason, which slows down his chassis level 1 by a few seconds, but that isn't entirely necessary to the warp-in rush. So, yes, he is Mason Federation, and he is going to be getting basically no combat ships for a very long time. However, once he gets that Starfleet command, he will be getting basically an endless supply of free ships until he reaches the cap of 10, which is extremely powerful, as you will see, because it doesn't really require him to expand or take any risky moves, and it puts the impetus entirely on Zap. It is up to Zap to do something about this match before Nesi gets that income of those extra free ships. So as you see there, Zap is getting a field research and Quebec extension from his field yard. This means we would see either a heavy weapons platform early, or we would see more likely cavorts coming out soon. He is getting an initial run of freighters that's a bit higher than normal, which means he is planning to populate that expansion very quickly. And there you saw the Starfleet engineering, Starfleet science before the Tritanium refinery. Now, this is what this is going to do. You're going to see is Risner has a reduced.
He's a little bit locked on try for the chassis level 1. He will wait until he gets some try from the miner, then he will get it, and probably an intrepid after that.
Exactly. So if he was Risner, he would have a slight discount to chassis level 1. However, as Mason, he came up with 196 tritanium at the end of this build, which means he needs his first tritanium miner to dock before he can even get chassis level 1, which delayed it by a few seconds, and in this case he didn't go ahead and get it just yet, but he was probably checking with his scout, because honestly that first intrepid is not the highest priority for this build. It is the warp-ins. And even then, the first warp-in gives him the ability to defend against early raiders, but it's really the second warp-in and the third warp-in that are so powerful with this build, because that's when he starts to get the critical mass required to kill the Klingon ships before they can cloak. So now we see Zap has begun cavort production. He has a single Quebec moving across the map, and at this point we know he's Klingon. He has a cloaked scout in his enemy's base. So he does see what the build is. However, it's been quite a while since we've had to deal with this build. This is one of the most powerful and potentially overpowered builds in Fleet Operations 3.27, especially on this map, Duel, because of the way that the map is so small, but also the blocking makes it makes the home moons a little bit easy to raid, while the expansions are difficult. However, at the same time, it's the nature of taking and holding an expansion. And the thing about this build is, it does not require
Nesi. You don't lose any time if you put the mining station right next to the moon. Or barely any.
You only lose very, very little mining,
Yeah.
and the miner costs a lot of money, so it's valid if you want a station there.
And the 2 miners.
What my co-commentators there are mentioning is if you build your mining station directly next to the moon, you can sometimes get away with only 2 miners on a moon. And the amount of mining that you will lose by not having 3 is very low. As you can see there, that one in docking begins mining right when the other one stops. You normally need 3 miners per moon. However, it's a trade-off because if you build your mining station closer to your home base, it's easier to defend, but it will require a 3rd miner. So, as we see there, those 2 Quebecs were able to chase off the constructor that was sent to build the central yard. That was going to be something that would allow Nesi to defend his home base better and project power a lot more easily. And as you'll see here, he did spend so many resources on that Starfleet command build. He basically had nothing. And he is in danger of having some miners killed here.
This.
However, he did receive the Nova Rhode Island refit.
This also did get ping on his scout, so Zap does have to be careful.
And he has also gotten he has gotten the cloak detect technology on his scouts, which allows him to detect these Klingon ships. Now, I don't know if there's going to be a kill. There will be if he gets in starbase range, though. Oh, wow. Maybe? I think it's gonna die.
Oh, the Nova needs to attack. Yeah.
Yep, and there it goes. Some very unfortunate starbase fire. You know, the Federation cloak detect, a lot of people don't like it because they keep losing scouts. However, it is relatively early game, and Federation cloak detect is pretty powerful. Now there is, I think that's probably the first Cavort and the Quebec putting fire on that constructor. However, I don't think he scouted it early enough because it's continuing to go. There's another Cavort showing up, and this is going to be a very intense race as to whether he can get this yard up or not. He does get the yard up. Oh, will the constructor get in, though? Oh, it did. Oh, wow. Okay. So, with that, Nesi has established his bulwark in the center of the map. You see he has 2 Intrepids out already. And this is going to make it very difficult for Zap now. Because even though he does have the cloak, so he does have the ability to just bypass this middle place in order to go raiding. The moment he arrives to raid, Nesi can probably pull his guys back to the starbase and send his fleet to attack Zap's mining. Or just as easily, since the Intrepids are pretty fast, he could head back and use his scout to do some cloak detect. And of course, the Starfleet command is ever ticking down, 250 seconds, and the second warp-in is the one you really have to watch out for, because then the critical mass starts to build very, very quickly. So we see the scout there waiting, we see the platform going up. The platform isn't a very big resource investment until you want to upgrade it. The Cavort has very good damage, however it's short range, which makes it very difficult to raid under starbase fire. You see Zap taking a bit of starbase fire, but he really does want these kills. That constructor had actually gone out to try to build another expansion or something, but ended up retreating because it wasn't defended. And we still see those Cavorts and Quebecs being pumped out, and a field yard here to repair, but it might be a little bit too slow. No, actually he will finish it, I think, but he will still be in danger. He has a lot of freighters here, and what's about to happen is the second warp-in is about to come to this expansion, I think. And when that happens, the firepower here is going to increase drastically, and it's going to be very bad. Oh, he does get the freighter in, though. Those Klingon freighters have a lot of hit points. They are not easy to raid. He's going to begin, putting some scuff marks on the Federation shields, but as you can see, the Federation, their defense is just so high on both those Mason Intrepids and on the Excelsiors. They can just turn around and mosey their way back to the center, although he is playing more aggressively. those other Quebecs are coming in, but there's a Galaxy class. That is a lot of stats. I want to say 30, 35. And this is going to force the Klingons to retreat. And he really has to be careful about attacking too far because there's the scout coming in. And I think that one's going to die before it even finishes its cloak cycle. There's just too much damage here. That is another Quebec Zap has lost, and he is going to get away from that pinging scout. However, they can now engage him on the yard, and the trick about Klingon ships is they have low system value, which means their yard repairs are slow. It takes them just a little bit longer to yard repair than other races. By the way, for those who weren't aware, the yard does not repair at a steady rate. What it does is it multiplies your ship's repair rate by like 10, which means that a ship with high system value, or like an Akira with defensive patterns, will repair significantly faster than a ship with low system value, resulting in what I mentioned, that Klingon ships repair slowly at their yard. And Nesi has not even rebuilt his third dilithium miner in this game because he's so focused on ship production. He probably wants to shift a miner over or rebuild it. However, he is getting Tricobalt torpedo, that long-range torpedo on the Intrepids, and although it has a relatively high miss chance against small ships, it will still prove very effective. And now Zap desperately is hoping to go raid and lock out Nesi, because Nesi is actually still in a little bit of danger of being locked out of resources. He doesn't need his tritanium, but if Zap were to cause a bunch of freighters to die, it would be very difficult for Nesi to continue ship production. Conventional ship production, that is. However, as we've seen, he doesn't need his conventional ship production in this scenario. He does have 2 Intrepids. I think he's going to get a third. Maybe he already has a third. We'll have to see. However, it's not that ship production that he cares about. It's the Starfleet Command, because in 100 seconds he's going to have a third warp-in, and while that will be the majority of his warp-in power, he will have the ultimate undead army. Oh, he does have a third Intrepid. Oh, and Zap has decommissioned his field yard and is building a battle yard instead. He's hoping to get some Sangs, maybe. Good morning, kitty. However, these platforms, the thing is, certain parts of the Fed gameplay are so inexpensive. He gets the cheap platforms to defend, and they defend just as a threat because he doesn't even have to upgrade them yet. And there we go. We see some raiding on the Tritanium. I think as soon as Zap sees this, as soon as Nesi sees this, he's probably going to go attack the expansion. Yep, there he is. Because he knows he could go back and defend from the raiding, but the Klingon ships would just leave when he does that. So this battle yard is in danger. I think this is a scenario where, honestly, Zap probably should have dumped the expansion and run. Unless he could have...
I would have really liked to see the Klingon build a Kadoosh right from the starbase.
Because in this scenario, he did kill all 3 Tritanium miners, but now he's going to lose his mining, and because that yard is there, he doesn't have the firepower to defend that yard. So I think it's going to be destroyed as well. I really think at this point he needed to just abandon the expansion. Or, like I say, a heavy weapons platform would have solved his problem. But man, those are expensive.
12 seconds for another warp-in, so then he has critical mass to kill everything here.
And Zap's fleet is coming back. However, this is a primarily pulse-based fleet, and it does not have very many hit points. There goes the cloak detect ping. I don't think it saw them, but the next one certainly will. Decloaking, firing on that Excelsior, spreading their fire a little bit. We're going to see a bunch of damage go down on the Excelsior, and it dies. Moving on another one, but there goes the third warp-in. And you see that Cavort did not escape. It can't cloak out into the scenario, and there's just too much damage. So there goes an Intrepid. They're going to kill an Excelsior. However, those Excelsiors, killing them, all that does is free up more warp-in slots for Nesi, really. He can just warp in again. I think that Cavort might get out alive. However, the next Quebec will not. And we are seeing what happens after the Federation gets critical mass. There goes another Intrepid. So the Klingons are scoring kills with their fleet. However, every Klingon ship that dies is so much more important than every Federation ship that dies. Because he is not going to be able to get the critical mass back. He requires tons of resources to get his back. But the Federation, they just keep getting free ships. I mean, yes, they have to rebuild the Intrepids, but even if it goes 1-to-1, even though he doesn't have the mining up, Nesi physically has 3 moons under his control and is about to kill this expansion. And it looks like Zap is expanding to the bottom left to keep his mining up. As a Klingon player, oh, he's decommed his center facility. As a Klingon player, maintaining production from a field yard with 2 extensions does require 2 dilithium moons. It requires a ton of dilithium. You do get a ton of firepower, and especially firepower with speed that allows you to go raid. However, you pump a lot of resources into your production, and that's what Zap has been doing this entire game. He's had really good mining. He's had double the mining that Nesi has had up to this point. In fact, right now he still has double the mining since Nesi has not fully rebuilt yet. But Zap has, it's all gone straight into ships, and then those ships, that ship production was comparable to the warpins, and the warpins are free once you pay that initial chunk. There we go. He is getting constructor kill, which doesn't lock Nesi out, but you see, man, 5 cavorts can do quite a lot of damage. And he has decided to continue with his battle yard plans. I wonder if it's going to be Sangs. It seems like it has to be. Something with long-range firepower to help deal with this fleet.
At this point, I think Sepp has only one choice, and that is to go raid the Hell and see to get 1 or 2 veterans. Otherwise, he will not be able to outproduce Nesi anymore. He has to fight for rank ups.
And yeah, here comes the Federation. They do have the critical mass. They can continue to raid. And they are not afraid of even a little bit of starbase fire because their ships have so much defense. Oh, kitty. And you see here, they are actually going for the center part of the field yard. And when that happens, you know you're in trouble, because the center part of the yard, because it has all the others attached to it, it is extremely high on defense. It's 135 defense. It has more defense than a battle yard or an imperial yard. It has twice or 3 times as much as like mining stations. So it has a lot of hit points. When someone's going for the field yard center, you know they're confident that they can take it out, and he's going to get it. So that will be not only Zap's production, but it will be his repair yard at the home base. And I think he's going to need to rebuild that in order to, well, he can't fight this fleet on even terms anyway. And you see there, the miners are dying. The starbase is spreading its fire out among several Intrepids, but they are getting away. And he did go into the middle and kill off that platform with incredible speed, and I hope he gets that scout kill. Yep. However, the Federation fleet, they're almost due for another warp-in at this point. Man, yeah, while I wasn't paying super close attention, that Klingon fleet has really gotten big, but they're under a cloak detect ping. So you can't cloak, and the Intrepids are kind of fast, and there they got an engine hit on that Cavort, so its life is over. Its combat life anyway. It can cloak out here, but it won't be able to move, and I think it just died. So, Zap, yep, and there it is. There is the 4th warp-in. And since he lost 2 Excelsiors, I think they're all going to stay. Yep. Oh, that is a raiding warp-in. Very deep strike, and there is nothing Zap can do about that. He can send his ships home, but Nesi's will be there to meet him. So at this point, Nesi has effectively taken control of the board. He's getting a kill there. He's attempted to move out. I think the Katinga will get into the yard, but a Katinga is not nearly as dangerous as a freighter is. And you see Zap leaving a pair of Cavorts just so he can do some raiding. He's even sent his guy up to start building in the very top right of the map. A little bit similar to what I was doing again in my match against Mighty Master when I was losing, which the video hasn't been posted yet, but that happened. We were both Dominion, were we? Or, oh man, I'm forgetting. No, we were both Romulan. And after he had gained the fleet superiority with his Lavals, I started building all of these mining stations in the corners of the map, being like, he can't see me. But the fact of the matter was, I didn't have the build capacity, and I wasn't able to get the kind of resources I needed to outbuild the fact that my opponent had a bigger fleet than me. So as you can see here, Zap did go for the armory, and is going for Vorcha, and he's almost got one finished. However, I think it's going to live a tragically short life with all of these other ships here. That Vorcha does have a beautiful 38 offense. However, it's just facing too much, and even if the Intrepids deal half damage to it, that's still not going to be enough to protect it. Because so many of these Federation ships are medium range. All of the Nebulas and the Galaxy and the Rhode Island. And, oh yeah, there you see, it can't even make it back to its own yard under this level of firepower. The firepower on the Federation fleet has built up. You see the number of oval-shaped saucers. There goes the constructor, and that was the second constructor. There goes the mining station. Battle Guard desperately pumping out those 800 dilithium Vorchas. And at this point, Nesi has taken the game. So, analysis. It seems that Nesi has not even really focused on rebuilding his miners. He's just focused on maintaining the fleet and dealing damage, which at this point he can. Those warpins are just so powerful. Which is why, I've done a lot of analysis, and in Triptych's mod, I actually limit the number of warpins you can have based on your chassis level. So you have to get higher chassis levels in order to call in more than one warpin. However, in 3.27, a very, very early warpin rush in a 1-versus-1 match is a very, very powerful strategy.
User joined your channel.
And we will see what Zap comes up with his second match in order to attempt to defeat.
That was
no,
their
I think that was the first one.
It was their first game.
All right, this is Triptych signing off.